This car makes me want to weep and then die. I feel like I've been incarcerated in a blueberry.
You ready, Bean?
Yes.
Can you turn the microphone just a little bit closer to you? Or you can bend it.
I did.
You didn't. It didn't move at all. There we go. That's better.
I feel like I'm being swaddled in a cocoon of cloud candy.
Yeah, that's immediately better.
Well, that was me whispering.
Well, good. Fine. Don't do that. People don't like explosives. That's what a pop filter is for. And that's, you have a little... Bean, quit it with the explosives. How many times do I have to tell you to quit it with the explosives?
You quit it with your explosives.
Bean, I went to the bathroom. You can't judge me off of that. That's not, you can't judge people on their poops.
Oh, I can. And
I will. And you say I'll shit?
I shall.
Welcome. Welcome everybody to.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Welcome everybody to the newest episode of Scurvivor series. Scurvivor series. This is, of course, the only podcast where a soon-to-be married couple discuss the episodes of Survivor. And this season, we're talking, of course, season 45. It's the series going on right now. We're talking episode 3, No Man Left Behind. I'm, of course, Ryan Knightsey. I didn't say names, but I'm, of course, Ryan Knightsey. With me, as always, is the beautiful, the lovely Jessie Dibiowski. Jessie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in my little cocoon.
You are
swaddled in
a swaddled in a white blanket right now. A white fuzzy blanket right now. You look like you're Gandhi, but discussing Survivor.
I feel like I've been swaddled in a cocoon of cloud candy.
Great.
That's all I want to say.
What is that? Is that Psych?
Yeah,
is that what that
it's
is?
Tim Curry's episode
Of Psych.
when he's like, I feel like I've been incarcerated in a blueberry. This car makes me want to weep and then die.
I only know what that's from because you quote it once a month, maybe.
Well,
not just the show, not just the show, but like specifically that quote.
It is, I think, one of the greatest quotes from Psych that there ever did was. Well, let's see if I can find any good quotes from this episode of Survivor. I should say up top that if you have any questions or thoughts on this episode, or just, topics of conversation you want us to talk about or you want to be a part of, you can email that in to scurvivorseries@gmail.com. Or your favorite Psych episode.
Or your favorite Psych
quotes.
episode. Yes, if you've ever seen Psych, what's your favorite Psych episode? Jessie has seen every single one 10 plus times, maybe?
We're not going to talk about it.
It's okay to have a good favorite show. That's your comfort show.
I'm currently watching season 3 and 2. Well, I watched season 2.
Season 3 and 2 and 1 and 4 and 9.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just need Psych. You just need Sean and Gus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need those people. For me, I just watch wrestling, so I'm not going to judge anyone on their taste. We, of course, like we said, we're talking about episode 3, No Man Left Behind. What did you think about this week's episode of Survivor, Beanie? You've tipped in the past. You've come saying, "Nah, it's fine. It's not." You don't seem too jazzed about the season so far.
I'm not.
Did this episode turn it around for you? No, that's a no.
I don't know. So far, we're getting the same sort of story that we've gotten last season.
Yeah.
We have the one tribe that is, and maybe that's why this upcoming episode they're reorganizing so as not to have the same season as last, where like one tribe just kept losing and then they were decimated and then they were no more.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what it feels like right now. It's kind of just, we've seen this before. And, I think
it's become a trend, and I feel like in the past several seasons where like there's always one tribe that just like actively sucks more than everybody else.
Yeah, but last season it was like blatantly obvious that like it was one tribe that was always losing.
Yeah. Well, except Tika always lost, but I don't remember what it was, but there was one other tribe that lost a person before Tika started losing to. I want to say it was Green or something. Whatever Green was. Ratu? I don't know, maybe.
No, I think Ratu was the orange team.
Yeah, Ratu was an orange team. I don't remember, but there was some other team that lost a person, then Tika lost everybody. But here it's like this is just utter decimation of a tribe, of a singular tribe.
Yeah.
And it's been real bad for Lulu. There are some points where they turn things around here, but all we've really gotten out for everyone is Lulu here.
I gotta say, first impression of the season, I was like, all right, this is gonna be explosive. There's gonna be drama. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, honestly, so far, one of the most disappointing points in this story is Emily's turnaround.
Disappointing? Why is it disappointing?
Because it's what she needed to do was to be in the game.
Yeah.
But it's less entertaining.
Sure.
Like, I was ready for...
I think it's satisfying, but not entertaining per se for reality TV.
It's good for her game.
Yeah.
But it's not good for my entertainment.
It's not good reality television.
Right.
But also it's like if she continued down that pathway, they would have voted her out, and then she's not around, you know?
Yeah. But like, I don't know.
Good reality TV
was short-lived.
Good reality TV to fix that is to put Bruce and Emily on the same team. That's
Do you think they're gonna do that?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think yeah. So I'm here.
Yeah, I think once I kind of agree with you is that like it's been fine because we have a retreading of a crappy team and all this stuff. I think once we get to the merge, or once we get to this reshuffling, or even a merge, I think things will turn around a little bit. And I think the problem with that whole thing is that like we really don't know any of the other like big tribe things that are happening. With the 30-minute extensions, we have a better idea than I think we previously do.
I was going to say that I think that was a good idea because, I mean, last season, we pretty much only saw Tika for the most part.
Yeah.
Which got really old really quick. And, like, at least now that they've, like, extended the episode times and we see more camp life, even though, because they've done that, like, even though Lulu's the one going to tribal every time, we still get other interactions, which is nice.
Yeah, and we have the problem being is that we see these other interactions, but then they don't really go anywhere.
Yeah, nothing really matters because they're not going to tribal.
Yeah, but at the very least, things are bubbling under the surface, and then if something happens, something will happen.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the episode itself. We start the episode 3 at Lulu post Brandon vote. We always start these episodes at Lulu post Brandon's vote. Emily is very thankful to the tribe that they did not eliminate her because she knew that she was on the chopping block. Sabaya says that they couldn't win with Brandon, so we sort of get a realization of what her decision making was last episode. Is that she ultimately decided that they couldn't win with Brandon. Says she doesn't dislike Emily, just understands that they come from different backgrounds and gives her back her shot in the dark, which she says that she didn't really have to, but she did it to sort of help her. Emily feels relieved in that and admits that she didn't really need that. But then she sort of starts putting 2 and 2 together and realizes that Brandon was voted out with only 3 votes in the game, not 4. So she realizes that someone did not vote. We don't really see why she comes to this conclusion, but her conclusion is, or at least one of her theories is, that Sabaya didn't vote. And Sabaya denies it. Denies that she did not vote, or that she says actually that she did vote, and they're all confused because they're like, well, there's only 3 votes. Why if you voted, then that would have been 4.
Mm-hmm. But why is she okay? Here's my thought on this. She's not necessarily like actively picking a fight because she's not looking to fight necessarily, but like, why would you confront? You like literally just had this conversation about like, oh, we're making strides in our relationship. And then you single out Sabaya about that. Like, I think Emily's problem is not necessarily a problem of trust. I think that's part of it. I think the bigger issue is knowing when to keep her mouth shut.
That you're echoing kind of what Caleb mentioned in his interview is that she comes back and she starts picking fights.
Like, again, and I don't think it's malicious in terms of she's looking to cause drama.
No.
I think she just doesn't know when to, like, not say something. Like, it could have easily just been, like, did somebody not vote?
Yeah.
But instead it's, Sabaya, did you not vote?
Yeah.
It's like, we know that you're putting together and you know who it is. Mm-hmm. But part of the strategy she's lacking is, like, how to
she doesn't have tact when it comes to doing things. Like even how you ask that question is like, oh, who did somebody not vote?
Yeah.
Give them a chance to admit it. But like, if you feel like you know who it is, you don't just like out that person after you've just had a conversation about like making strides in your relationship. It just felt like really poor planning on Emily's part and a lack of tact of like, she doesn't think it's going to start a fight necessarily, but like, just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I mean, we've seen in previous interactions with Emily that when she doesn't necessarily think she is the causation of a lot of fights, she's outright said that like, oh, I think I'm being gaslit or whatnot. Like she's made comments like that in the past where it's like it comes across like she doesn't quite understand how these fights happen, even though it definitely feels like she is the causation of a lot of these things. It just turns out that all these things happen with her. So I think you're right in that she lacks the tact. She's tactless. But I do think that she is doing a good job of trying to bring it out in the open. She could have talked to Caleb aside and said, who doesn't have a vote? Someone didn't have a vote, and try to figure it out something from there. But I like the idea of keeping the open in case other people don't know, like Sean, even though she knows Sean's working with Sabaya.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. I think that's a decent move. I agree with what you're saying, though, is like you don't necessarily have to pinpoint it on Sabaya, though.
Yeah, but it's also like timing, right? Like,
yeah.
You just had your butt saved. Like, give it a breath.
Yeah.
And I get your point of like putting it out in the open. Like, that's fair. I just feel like it wasn't her smartest move.
In her defense, Sabaya is the person she trusts the least. So that I can understand why Sabaya is her suspect number one.
Yeah, I get it. And I'm saying her logic is not flawed in the conclusion that she drew.
Emily's logic is almost never flawed. She just doesn't handle these arguments.
For when she was like, they're lying.
Yeah.
Her logic is not necessarily flawed. It's just how she like
her
approached it. Yeah.
So the question here, trust belt or not? And then I think, knowing what happens in the end of the episode, this idea of Sabaya not voting, really bites in the butt twice. Bites in the butt here. Yeah. She could have been honest, and maybe that could have helped her in the end.
Yeah, I think it was an opportunity for Sabaya to like cement that trust, and she didn't.
Yeah,
I think Emily knows that.
Mm-hmm. She gave Sabaya an ability to be honest with her, and Sabaya outright lied instead.
Yeah, which maybe that's what she was going for.
Mm-hmm. But if she was honest here, maybe they wouldn't have flipped on her by the end. And this whole theme of Sabaya not voting at the end of the day is your most powerful tool. By not voting, maybe you'll go home.
Yeah.
At Bello, we get a shocking moment where Jake collapses after making a fire. He seemingly
blew too hard.
He's seemingly fine, but what seemed to happen is that he just took out all the air of his lungs or something. Collapsed. He was shaking apparently.
Wait, did they call in medical?
No, they did not call in medical. Whoa! Oh yeah, because you get points.
Because I would have got so many points.
Yes, you're taking this a very competitive route. I've noticed.
Well, now that I know he's okay. Damn it!
I want the points. But yeah, so this happens in front of Kendra, and she gets very nervous, and she ends up becoming very protective of him. And now that she's actually talking to Jake, she sort of starts finding an ally. If we recall episode 1, Kendra was thinking Jake was the biggest target for her, and now she's like, I'm kind of protective, and I kind of think I have an ally now.
He's like a little soft teddy bear.
Who, Jake?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which makes me think he's not going to make it very far.
We'll find out for sure.
He's a sweet little teddy bear, but like, hopefully that he's not too much of a sweet little teddy bear.
At Reba, a crab eats their breakfast of 3 worms. That's pretty much what happens at Reba. But we get...
That's it?
Well,
there's a crab.
There's a crab that eats their breakfast of 3 worms.
They had crabs, but it got eaten by the worms.
No, they had worms.
They had worms, but it got eaten by the crabs.
Correct.
And these are not STDs we're talking about.
Great.
Or infections.
I'm glad you got that joke in.
Thank you. Thank you.
God. But what we also get from Reba is we get some idol hunting with Austin and Drew.
Da, 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 idol hunting.
So they go, obviously, previously, Austin found this idol, this Beware advantage. It lost a vote. It led to this thing of the wordplay stuff. He has to go to a fallen palm tree that made an X. He told Drew about this. So they are going to find that fallen palm tree and start digging.
Da, 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 idol hunting.
Their alliance members, Dee and Julie, especially Dee, pick up on like weirdness regarding Austin and Drew, and think that like they've been kind of doing some secret stuff behind their back as an alliance team. So much so that they stumble across Drew actively digging, so much so that he does not see them because his back is turned. And then they ask him, hey, what's happening? And he just sort of gets up and walks away. And it's this really awkward moment. And
Drew did not play that off very well.
And he admitted it too. He's like, I screwed that up. But he ends up, what happens is that Drew ends up, and then Austin continues the lie. Drew ends up telling him that they were digging in that position because they saw Sifu digging in that position. So they admit to digging, but say the reason they're there is because of Sifu. Which,
like, okay, the explanation I think was a very good, quick thinking for Drew. But his initial reaction just blew that for them.
Yeah.
He just
immediately
got up and walked away.
Dee immediately thought something was off with that lie. It's a great lie.
Yeah, if not paired with looking at them and just walking the other way.
Yes, if that was gone, I think he could have gotten away with it. Sifu is someone that is already suspicious around camp, especially of Dee. So it was a good lie. It just his actions were worse than his words. Yeah. We get to the reward challenge. So we start to get to separate rewards and immunity challenges. Basically, what this is that everyone starts in the ocean. They race to the beach. Then they start tossing a ball into the top of this like ramp thing where then they have to cross over this rope maze and then get to the end of it, catch the ball, put in a thing. They then, when everyone has done that, and they've gotten all their balls and whatnot, they then pick up the balls, hoop it into this basket, hoop raises up, there's a little post there, throw 3 rings on top of the post, and you win. What you win is food, which is, as we saw with Reba and Bello, something that people are lacking or seemingly need. And the food is like fresh fruit and veggies and all this stuff. And also a camp raid. The winning team will be able to go to another tribe's camp and raid for whatever items that they may have. People that also have to sit out here, Jake and Bruce sit out, and then Drew and J. Maya sit out for Reba. And I don't really have a lot of notes on this reward challenge specifically, other than Caleb balls.
Yeah, it was too hard to like pay attention to anything other than Caleb just freaking crushing it.
He destroyed it, and that's huge because ultimately what happens is Lulu finally gets a win. They get first place, and Caleb 100% led his team to victory.
Yeah.
I will say also, I don't want to continue the dunking on Brandon, but he would have been bad at this. He would have been so bad at this. Running through the maze.
He should be proud of himself, especially after his first day there, making it to 5 days, living out his dream.
Of course.
And honestly, like, yeah, Survivor was not for him.
Yeah.
But, like, he should still be proud of the 5 days that he had there.
And you know who Survivor is for? Caleb nailed it in this challenge.
But also, so with the untying of the keys or whatever,
yes,
there was like other teams had like 2 people on that. Why was Caleb the only one that was doing it by himself? Like, was that like a rule that like you could have 2 people doing that?
I have no idea.
And he just chose to do it by himself?
Yeah, there was like a 2-second shot of just like an overhead drone shot of like
Reba and Bello had like 2 people on that last platform.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but Caleb, at least it didn't matter because Caleb
just crushed it.
He seemingly was a decent amount of time before everybody else. He nailed the maze. Emily struggled with the maze. I don't remember who else struggled on the other teams, but really Emily was the one struggling the most through the maze out of anybody else. But it didn't really matter because they had such a good lead. Caleb nailed the ball and seemingly nailed all 3 hoop ring tosses like immediately, and they won. So that's a huge win for Lulu.
Do you have Caleb on your team?
Yes, Caleb is on my team. And Reba gets second place. We then cut away before we find out who Lulu is picking to raid.
Lulu?
Yes.
Lulu?
Fun fact. Caleb balls. That means if Caleb balls, that means Lulu's got live sports. At the boat, that's a fun little joke. At the boat before the camp raid, Caleb discovers. By the way, Caleb is the one that was chosen to go on the raid.
Okay, so quick thing about that.
Sure.
Their explanation as to why Caleb should go is that he is arguably the most social person on there.
Yes, that is what Emily says, that he is the most social person, so maybe he can get the most information.
Which is fine, I guess. For, he could probably sweet talk them into giving him things that they could bring back. But in terms of getting information,
yeah,
how does that benefit them so much as a tribe and individuals that they would let the currently most social player go and build stronger connections
with people before
everybody else? Like, yeah, he can get the most information. He's also able to cement. Like, wouldn't you send one of the other 3 who needs a chance to become a social player? Like, to get information?
Yeah.
Because, like,
I get what you're saying.
It's like you're just sending the starter into the All-Star game, like, and hoping that, like, you'll get, recruited from that. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I think there's also this idea,
he's getting recruited. He's getting brought up to the big leagues or whatever.
I get the impression that they, sort of later in the episode, they kind of talk about how the only thing they really could steal was the fishing gear. But the problem with that is that the fishing gear doesn't matter. They can fish all they want, but they don't have any fire, so they can't do anything with that information. Like, okay, great, we can fish, but now we have raw fish that is unprepared and everything.
Sushi.
So, but it's unprepared. You can't. That's a different animal.
Well, it's the same animal.
It's the same animal. My mistake. That's a different beast. So at the end of the day, it was like, it doesn't really matter to them. I get the impression that it doesn't really matter what camp they went to, or they had to get the fishing gear no matter what. But the bigger thing that they were searching for was information. And I think they thought that the person that would be the best suited to get information is Caleb.
Which is a double-edged sword, because he will also be able to schmooze everyone before the merge.
Well, I mean, look at the other options. You're not sending Emily.
That would be hysterical.
You could send Sean, but I don't really get the impression that that's a good thing or bad thing. So maybe there's an idea there. And then there's Sabaya, who it could also work. I don't know.
Yeah, it just feels like they put so much on this could be good for our tribe, but it was obviously unbalanced. It was way more beneficial to Caleb's game than it was to everybody else and them as a tribe.
Yeah.
It felt like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So before he gets to the camp raid, he goes to the boat for the raid, and Caleb realizes that he gets an ability to give a goodwill advantage to somebody. I don't know if this is new to the game. It definitely feels like it. But the goodwill advantage...
It's new, at least to me, so it's new for the last couple seasons.
It's a new era new for us.
Yeah.
So the goodwill advantage essentially is that if you or whoever uses the advantage does not have the ability to vote for whatever reason, then they can use the goodwill advantage and be able to get their vote back. It brings up certain questions that we'll get to later, but I think that's a pretty good advantage to have. Be able to still vote without having the power. Now, who was it that... it was Drew, right? I think that has the advantage of safety without power.
Yeah.
So he could use the safety without power that Drew has was that he can leave the voting. He can be there at tribal council, leave tribal council during the voting phase, and he doesn't have a vote. I wonder if he could leave, then use the goodwill advantage to still vote, and then that's fine. I wonder if that's possible. But there's
because he's not losing his vote in that, he's just leaving.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
well, in a way, he's losing his vote. They're taking away his vote, but yeah. We'll find out. I think these are all specific questions and issues. But before we put the cart before the horse, we have Caleb going to Reba. They decided to go to Reba. Sifu and J Maya perform a song that was very cringeworthy. I gotta say. All
I have written down from this segment is what WTF is Sifu on?
Yeah, so Sifu, they realized that Sifu is a musician. And J Maya is also a musician. And this seemingly is like the first time Reba's put two and two together, because Caleb's like, oh, have you guys harmonized? And they're like, sure. And like, oh, let's hear a little bit of it. Very genuinely trying to break some ice, but it seems like they've never discussed it. Sifu immediately starts doing like a heavy metal riff that J Maya definitely does not do. Performs, and like, she just kind of mimics what he's doing.
But like, I mean, hey, she gave it her best shot. I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, and I think anybody else in her position would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, Sifu is such an interesting character that we
just need to dive deep into Sifu. Like, I feel like that's what I'm missing.
He's so one-dimensional right now, maybe two-dimensional.
Well, because they just cut away shots to him doing like weird stuff. We don't dive deep into like, who is Sifu?
I punch trees.
Yeah, and I think
I'm in a heavy metal band. I guess
we need a little bit more Emily drama. We need a little bit more Sifu screen time. Because I think this is more interesting to me.
Well, yeah. Well, see, if Reba loses, then maybe that's the thing. So what Caleb says that they end up deciding on is that he is going to take their fishing gear. But he says that they're going to leave the spear. So just
he's so nice about it. He's like, is that okay?
Yeah.
We were thinking...
Caleb is actively trying He's trying to make everyone feel comfortable and nice. And he's not trying to cause any, disdain towards Lulu or him.
Cause problems. You guys have nothing.
I agree.
Cause some problems.
I don't know. Because he does say that like they had to take the entire set of fishing gear, which I found interesting.
I think
we talked about whether or not they could take Flint, which I imagine was a topic broached, and they just said they couldn't do it.
I think, it is a good idea that Lulu sent the one person who could raid a camp and like still get a hug from everybody afterwards.
Sure.
I feel like that's, I guess that's why they said they sent him. But.
It's, a good idea. Knowing what next episode is going to be and everyone switching sides, Caleb potentially has like alliances already set up.
Definitely with Drew at least.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. So Julie is the only one kind of suspect about Caleb, says he's working very hard to win everybody over. Caleb meets with everyone individually to sort of get their vibes and everything, kind of decide what to do with the goodwill advantage. Drew ends up telling Caleb about his advantage that he won on his journey, which we said already was his safety without power. And because of that, Caleb recognizes that Drew is a power player, and for whatever reason...
gives him more power?
Yeah, he recognizes that Drew is a power player on this tribe and decides, that's a guy I want on my team, which, sure, not knowing what's going to happen going forward, I think that's a bad idea, because at the merge, I wouldn't want that guy on my team. I would want to get that guy eliminated. But he ends up giving Drew the goodwill advantage, and Drew ultimately then tells that information to Dee and Austin, and Austin's very happy about this because right now he can't vote, so potentially he will now be able to vote if the time comes. Moving on to Lulu. They're enjoying their food, they're enjoying their victory. Sean has this whole thing where he's enjoying Emily's company now. He's really enjoying having her at the tribe.
Listen, I have a theory, and I think that this will explain everything. I think Emily was just hangry.
That's plausible. Everyone's loving her now.
Because she's getting along with everybody now. Sean's like, I actually like talking to Emily. It's like, yeah, I think she was hangry. I know how I feel when I'm hangry.
Yeah, she just needed a Snickers. I think that was her problem. Sabaya talks to Sean about potentially getting rid of Caleb because Sabaya is trying to set up herself for post-merge. Sean questions if it's too early to do that, and she just sort of says, well, but he's a big threat. We should probably maybe get him out.
But he is the one that just won a challenge for you.
I fully agree. Agree.
I get it. I always think that people let the big players stay too long. You got to take them out while you have limited numbers.
Yeah.
Because once you get everybody involved, it's like much harder. However, when you're Lulu, and I think we talked about this with I think it was like Jonathan, like his tribe had been losing or whatever, and maybe they weren't losing, but they needed him because it was like he was the one carrying them for a bit. I was like, you kind of need him.
And at the very least, like post-merge, it's always smart to have a meat shield, and Caleb is the meat shield. Jonathan is the better example of a meat shield, I think, just like kind of dumb and good at challenges. But Caleb is incredibly smart, incredibly social player, but also can easily be a meat shield for somebody. He might see that coming, and he might recognize that that's a thing. But at the very least, Sabaya is considering getting him out now. So much so that they bring in Emily. Sabaya chooses to bring in Emily and discuss voting out Caleb with her. So this is the first sort of example of she has this power. Sabaya is kind of running things on this camp, and she needs the numbers because she knows that she can't vote, and Sean's the only one that can vote. And Sean's which is fascinating that Sabaya has no power in this game, and Sean is like, who should I vote for?
And everyone's listening to her.
It's fascinating that no one else realizes that, seemingly.
Well, Emily realizes.
Ultimately, she'll realize that. But yeah, so they are forced to bring in Emily because they want to vote out Caleb, and they need someone to vote for that. So, which is interesting, and Emily is sort of shocked by that, I should say. At Bello, Kendra discusses Jake being cool to the girl squad, and Katora recognizes oh, okay, they're kind of cool on Jake now. Maybe this is my opportunity to throw Bruce under the bus. And she kind of does. She does an element. We don't necessarily see if that takes or doesn't take. But at the very least, now that Jake is off the board, Katora's recognizing that and trying to take out Bruce. Kelly talks with Brando, her other Alliance member, about this whole thing. We don't really get a resolution to everything. So we get a bunch of new updates to what's happening with Bello, but then nothing really goes from there with them. Actually, is that the last time? Yeah, that's the last time we see Bello the entire episode. So, well, beyond the immunity challenge, of course. Yeah. But that's where we get from them, is that Jake passed out earlier. There's now an alliance between Jake and Kendra, and so now we're going to gun for Bruce, and then maybe that's it. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. At Reba, did you have any thoughts about that? I should ask about Bruce or anything. There's not a lot to go from there.
I think I think plant the seed, but I think she planted a giant seed. Not a giant seed. I think a bigger seed than maybe. I don't know. I think none of this makes any sense.
None of it makes any sense?
It felt inorganic, at least the way that it came across in the episode of okay, so Bruce, and they were like, whoa, okay. They really like Bruce. What? And she was like, Bruce, he sucks. And they were like, this is out of the blue. It felt really weird. I don't know.
I do have concerns for Katora that she is going to make. I think she recognizes that she can't push Bruce too hard as a vote, because then it might become, they're gunning for you, Bruce. We should get out Katora.
And also, if she's putting too much time into throwing Bruce under the bus and not into, furthering her game in other areas, that would be a concern.
I agree. We get to Reba. Austin spills the beans about his idol with Dee and Julie. He sort of opens up what's happening. I don't recognize what happened, but he says that he didn't open up fully. He didn't give them their full honest truth. I don't remember what the difference was in his stories.
He didn't tell them that he doesn't have a vote, I think.
I thought they said something about like Sifu again. I don't really recognize what happened there.
No. He said that they are hunting for this idol, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he told them that he doesn't have a vote.
I don't remember, but it doesn't ultimately matter. They end up starting an excavation site at the tree, the 4 of them. They come up with this plan where 3 of them will dig and then 1 will go off. Somehow that falls apart because only 2 are left there digging, Dee and Julie, and they dig up a rope.
Well, can we real quick talk about their plan is so that someone will always be babysitting J, Maya, and Sifu.
Correct.
And when they cut back to Dee sitting there at camp with the 2 of them, and they all look so miserable, and it's the funniest thing. Like, it really legitimately is like she's babysitting them.
Yes.
So funny. They all just like staring off into the distance, and she looks so miserable.
I wonder what Sifu and J Maya would describe as their alliance. I assume either they're working together or like they're working with other quote unquote working with other people. But it's just like
we haven't gotten pretty much anything from them other than like little one-offs of like again Sifu being like, I punch trees.
Yeah, and J Maya's like, I'm good at puzzles.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten much of their perspective.
Yeah. So, who knows? We don't know whether any alliance anything with them as well. So, Dee and Julie find a rope in the dig site. That rope leads them to a underground or hidden or whatever hammer in the ground. The hammer tells them to smash a rock next to the water well. They end up hiding the rope and hiding everything. Just as they do that, J Maya pops up, and they seemingly convince her that, oh, we're just looking for more idols and stuff. And J Maya's like, oh, okay, yeah, great. That's a good idea. Let me join you. And that's that. They get away with it, seemingly. And then they go give the hammer to Austin. Go ahead. You had something?
No, I was just... Okay.
What? I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
So Austin then goes to the water well with Drew. They continue to break rocks until they get an idol. Except the idol only works for one tribal council. It's a different sort of tweak here for this idol. It only works for one tribal council. For it to work to the merge, you have to sacrifice one of your votes. And if you want it to work till the usual 5 people left endgame scenario of the season, then you have to sacrifice 2 votes. That's scary stuff right there, I gotta say.
Would you, if you were Dee and Julie, Julie, would you
Mama J
have given them the hammer?
That's a great question, because Dee even questions whether or not they should have given them the hammer. And her resolution on that was that she wants to make sure they have a loyal team. But at the same time, there is at least some evidence to suggest that Drew and Austin aren't the most loyal to them. They ultimately try to tell them all the information, but they admit that they're not giving the whole information. And even like she feels sussed out by them and all this sort of things. I feel like I don't know. I think it would be hard. I think for them, it was in the moment, so it would have been tough. If I had the moment to think about it, if I don't give them the hammer and solve it myself, then we are just going to end up digging at this tree site forever.
Yeah.
Until we find nothing. So like that won't go anywhere. So they're going to be there. They might then come up with like, what if they found it already and they're not telling us? And there might, that ruins your alliance and everything. So I don't really know. I think I may end up giving the hammer to Austin, but I'm not entirely sure. What would you do in that situation? If you know. Would you give the hammer to Austin?
I don't know.
Or do you give him a rock bottom? Is that something? The hammer? Austin? Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yeah.
Rock bottom at the well.
Is there any way that you could not give him the hammer, get the idol, and then go back later and plant a fake idol?
I don't know, because you have to break and rock.
Yeah, but I'm like, could you
put the rope and everything back, undig it, put dirt back on top of the rope, and attach to the end of the hammer, put a fake idol? That's a lot to do, and you know for a fact that they're going to come back at a certain point. And J. Maya showed up immediately,
but
so they
also,
lose their time to do it.
you take the hammer, you go find the rock, right? You take the idol.
Yeah.
You don't have to rebury the hammer. You just have to put a new idol.
A fake idol.
A fake idol.
At the end of the rope.
At the end of the rock. Or at the end of the rope. You could do the end of the rope. You could either try to put the rock back together.
Yeah. Which I doubt they would have to be able to. I doubt that would be possible.
Or just like
I
make a mound of dirt, a rock out of clay.
I think at the end of the day they just don't have enough time. Like J. Maya is right there with the rope, so they would have to explain what's happening with that or whatever. Or she leaves and they have to come back to the rope and redo that whole thing. While also knowing that at some point Drew and Austin will be coming back to them.
Yeah, I just think it's a good opportunity to like plant a fake idol, you know?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Maybe you still do that to try to fool Sifu and J. Maya.
No, I think you try to fool Austin.
I don't know.
Make him think he has his vote. Make him think he has an idol. Would he get his vote back? Or if he never finds the idol, if somebody else finds it?
I think what you should do is just plant a fake idol with the instructions and have Sifu or J. Maya find it, and then they end up sacrificing the votes to make sure they have an idol that lasts longer. So then they're not voting. That's what I would do.
I would do that to Austin.
No,
I think you're thinking too small.
No, I get what you're thinking, Jessie, but I don't think they have enough time to do that to Austin, knowing that he is also in on this game.
Yeah.
And he's already coming back and they're already actively digging at the spot. I don't think you have the ability to leave, make a fake idol, put it back under the rope, put all this dirt back before Austin comes back to this dig site. And also not tell Drew. I simply just don't think they have enough time.
I say you just hold on to the hammer. You don't tell him, and then
But then what do you do with the rope? You got to redig the rope and everything. So and then
they don't know. They don't know about the rope.
Just let it keep digging until they find it.
You got to come back the next day.
All right. So we get moving right along. Immunity challenge. The immunity challenge seemed like an interesting one. You have to pull a crate to underneath this some keys. You try to keys on a pole. You're trying to get the keys off the pole. To do that, you unlocks 2 giant puzzle pieces. You put that on your cart. You go on, you do that again, you go along. You then have to get your cart and puzzle pieces through a little slit in a gate, which involves deconstructing your cart. Once you do that, once you deconstruct your cart, build it up again, you then bring it over to the actual big puzzle. You take out your puzzle pieces, match them up with all the other big puzzle pieces, and one person's the caller and 3 other people are picking up these big heavy blocks to put together a massive cube puzzle. Did you get all that?
Did you get all that, honey?
So the immunity challenge begins. Reba and Bello at an early lead. Sean, who is the key getter for Lulu, has trouble getting the key, and sort of Sabaya tells him to change his strategy as he's doing it. Which, whether that works or doesn't, who knows, because it did cause some issues for them, but they ended up getting the BO fine. Bello ultimately crushes in the cart challenge by getting completely deconstructing their cart and getting it through real easily. Lulu, I think, also does a really good job of they deconstruct their cart and they put the largest actual cart platform, I guess you can say, through the section first, moving it out of the way and getting all the other stuff because Reba doesn't do that, and they just sort of deconstruct everything, shove it through the door, and then just create a traffic jam of pieces.
Yeah, they get stuck on all the pieces that are on the other side.
And so what ends up happening is Bello's able to get across first, then Lulu catches up, and Reba's third. So that kind of hurts Reba there. But then we get to the puzzles. We find out if Lulu can do a puzzle without Brandon. Jay, Maya, Emily, and someone else. Kendra, I think it was, maybe? Yes, Kendra were the callers to the puzzle people. Bellows Bruce sort of gets aggressive and telling people to move out of the way so he can do his job, which is interesting. Reba just feels like very good at putting this puzzle together. They do a very good job. Lulu just kind of like slowing down. Sabaya starts getting upset with other people and frustrated at Caleb. And ultimately what ends up happening, we get some very emotional music.
It was so sad. It was like, the maybe final battle of the second movie or whatever.
Yes.
Where everyone is dying.
It was the all is lost moment.
It really is. It's so sad. Like, I think props to the editing team.
Yeah.
Like, that was perfect. It was so sad.
Reba ends up getting the win, and Bello gets second, which means Lulu loses again.
Yeah.
It was very emotional music.
It was, and very stress. Like just keeps cutting back to Emily.
Yep.
Just like
realizing that
all
lost.
Is lost. Yeah, like it's just with the editing in that part was so good. It was just so good.
It was ultimately the final nail of the Lulu coffin. Like, they had a good comeback in the reward challenge, but they just needed it in the immunity. And because of puzzle-making skills, it just never happened for them.
Yeah, it just feels like no one on their team is good at puzzles.
Seemingly, that's true. So, back at Lulu, Sabaya comes up with this plan. She wants to vote Caleb and also fool Caleb. Because, of course, they are working together, but she wants to secretly vote him out. So, what she says to Caleb is that we're voting out Emily. And Caleb's like, yes, we're going to vote out Emily. And she's like, what do I tell Emily? And she says, just tell Emily that you are voting for me. And then when Emily asks me, I'm going to tell her I'm voting for Caleb, which is ultimately Sabaya's plan. A fantastic strategic move. She is telling Caleb the truth. She is telling Caleb her plan of, I'm going to tell Emily I'm voting for you. Because that's the truth.
And then you tell Emily you're voting for me, which ends up being both of those end up being a conversation with Emily and Caleb.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what's true, what's not?
Sabaya comes up with this plan as well, which she wants her idol. She wants the ability to vote again. So what she's planning on doing is that she's going to get to the tribal council, throw her wax candle figure thing into the fire at tribal council, and just melt it that way.
That's what I've been saying since she found it.
It's a smart move. It's a smart idea.
Bring it to tribal, throw it in the fire.
And she will ultimately do that, but she also tells Emily about her idol. I think this is sort of Sabaya's version of the shot in the dark. I think that's kind of what's happening here. So she ultimately works with Emily here. Emily immediately goes to Caleb and plays it strong to Caleb of, they are not voting me, they are voting you. 100%. I know for a fact that they are going to vote for you. Again, in Caleb's mind, he thinks, of course, Emily is telling me this. That's what Sabaya told her to say.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe they didn't show it. I feel like maybe Emily was like, no, when you were at Reba, this is what they were talking about doing.
Yeah.
Like, that would have probably been, like, a way to
further convince him that it's actually true.
And maybe she did, because it seems like he believed her.
He's ultimately unsure going into the tribal council that, because he's like, either Emily's telling me the truth or that they're actually going to vote for me, or she's just telling me the lie that Sabaya is doing so that we can vote out Emily. I don't know where to stand on this. Do we vote at Emily? Someone that I have good loyalty with, good trust built up with, who is becoming a better player, yada, 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 who, could be useful going down the line? Or do I vote out Sabaya? Which he does say Sabaya is a good player, so maybe I should vote her out now, but we've been working since the beginning, and that, I want to be loyal to that as well.
Well, it was a good feeling for Emily and for Caleb when Jeff started reading the votes and Caleb's name was written down.
Yeah.
that like
it proves Emily right.
Emily's name did not come up.
So we get to tribal council. Sabaya puts her idol directly into the fire. She comes clean in the moment about not having a vote, which then proves Emily more correct, that she was right. She just straight up lied about it. They talk about how Emily feels like an outsider still. They're really separating Emily from the rest of the pack. Sabaya successfully melts her tea wax to get a scroll, and she reads it out as she goes to vote, because that's when it's cooled down from the fire.
And also, you're not in front of everybody.
Exactly. What it reads is the exact same thing it reads when... It's the exact same idol that Austin gets. The idol only works at one tribal council. She can sacrifice a vote for it to work till the merge, or she can sacrifice 2 votes for it to work to the end game of Survivor. So... she ultimately decided not to vote.
Which, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yes, fully agree. In her position, fully you sacrifice that vote.
Yeah.
Because ultimately then it's useless.
Yeah.
I worked this hard to get to it. I want to keep it.
Yeah.
So she ultimately decides not to vote, and the rating goes down as Caleb gets 1 vote and Sabaya gets 2 votes. Sabaya is now eliminated from Survivor.
Eliminated.
Perfect. Do you have any thoughts about Sabaya going home? Do you think she played a good game? Do you think she what went wrong in Sabaya's game here? Is it getting the Beware advantage?
I don't even know if getting the Beware advantage is. I think playing a game of like I have all the power when you have not had a vote is really ballsy.
Mm-hmm. I think gunning too early for post merge at this point is also ballsy.
And I think
because it expresses this idea of safety without like you're not at the merge yet.
Right. And again, Sabaya has not had a vote since what, the first tribal council?
First or second? I think the second.
Yeah, it's really ballsy to like play this game of I have control, which I get, like, because if you can't actually vote, you need to put yourself in the position that others are like looking to you.
Yeah.
But I think that went to her head a little bit of like, I can now do anything.
Yeah.
And I think she had a great plan of going for Caleb maybe too early, but I think she underestimated Emily. I think she underestimated Emily. She thinks Emily doesn't have an alliance and that Emily will still do anything, which is fair. It's a fair belief, but like I don't know. I think she just underestimated Emily.
Yeah, I think Emily did good strategy here, presumably. We didn't see it, but I really wonder if Emily thought about like, well, she doesn't. So she kind of puts it together. She's under this theory that Sabaya doesn't have a vote. She then finds out that she has this sort of idol gimmick. And so she's probably thinking to herself, that's more evidence that she doesn't have a vote. So she lied to me earlier. Plus, she's about to have an idol. And once she gets the idol, she will have the ability to vote again, seemingly.
Yeah.
Based off of her previous knowledge of previous seasons. So in some ways, like that, if Emily puts that all together, she might be like, that's a good person to vote out. A person that is weak, legitimately weak, powerfully social in this game, powerfully strategic in this game, but is ultimately weak in voting power and doesn't have an idol yet. Before she gets an idol, we should vote her out.
Right. I think also a good strategy for Emily of like going into the merge. Yes, Caleb is a threat, but Caleb also is willing to work with you now versus Sabaya, who's clearly going to poison people against you.
Yeah.
Like this is the time to take her out.
Yeah.
Because you can have a fresh start with Caleb and Sean and go into the merge. If it's just the 3 of you, go into the merge that way. Like, I think it was a good move for Emily to tell Caleb.
Do you think it was a bad idea for Sabaya to tell Emily about her idol? If Sabaya...
What would have happened if she didn't?
Emily would have a suspicion that Sabaya wouldn't have a vote, or someone doesn't have a vote, but she wouldn't have more evidence to suggest that's such a thing.
I think it was a bad idea.
Okay.
Because, I don't think that it really cemented the trust.
It didn't.
It really didn't do anything for Sabaya to show her that.
But it also doesn't ultimately matter because Sabaya was going to do the idol thing at tribal council anyways. So maybe maybe it didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
She was going to find out no matter what. But she was going to find out no matter what. But maybe she thought, maybe at that point when she realized that Sabaya doesn't have actually a vote, she found the opportunity to get rid of Sabaya. If she thought maybe she doesn't have a vote, I don't know what's happening, and she went with Sabaya anyways and thought maybe it's just a 3-1 on Caleb, maybe she would have gone with that. But she doesn't trust Sabaya, so why not keep the person that you trust?
Yeah.
That you know that you can vote out Sabaya in this instance.
And that won't throw you under the bus as soon as the merge comes.
Seemingly, yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately she in any other tribe she could have been a better player. I think she just got stuck with the Lulu losers, and they just constantly lost. Was she the best player on the team? Not necessarily, but she was a really good social player and was able to be very social despite having really no power in the game. And I think, we talk about that a lot, you and I, about how, like, I think people don't quite realize, like, the social dynamics of stuff is, like, Sabaya fully weak. Like, arguably one of the weaker people in the game because she has no voting power. She has to work harder to be social to stuff.
Well, but I also give her some credit that, like, she put herself in a position of having power despite having
completely
no voting
agree.
power.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fantastic move. She's a fantastic
But I think
social
it just
player.
went on. Like, I think the problem is that it wouldn't have come back to bite her so quickly if Lulu wasn't dwindling so fast.
Correct. I think she could have. If they won, she would have lasted to the merge. Maybe.
Right. I think so too.
But that's it for Sabaya. That's also it for you on her team, on your team. She was on your team. She's now been eliminated from the episode. We'll talk about points in a moment. But before we get to anything else, I
gotta cross off Sabaya.
Before we get to anything else, I want to talk about that preview because that was interesting. It's find out that we're going to everyone has to drop their buffs, and we are sort of flipping around the tribes. It doesn't seem like this is the proper merge, but rather this seems like they are just sort of reshuffling the deck of who's left on the episodes. They seemingly still, I'm going to guess, still want 3 tribe members because the colors are still around. Lulu's yellow is still being worn by people post this whatever tribe swap is. I think tribe swap is actually what they call it. So I think what ultimately happens is this is just a reshuffling on the deck. It's an evening out of the tribes. The only people I notice specifically in terms of having different color items, backpacks, or the buffs, are Bruce, Jack, and Sifu, who has a yellow backpack. All 3 of them seemingly get moved to Lulu.
So I wonder if it's like reappropriating people and like
Sifu's
moving them
going
to different beaches.
Yes, unless Sifu's going through somebody's bag, but at the very least he's around a yellow bag. But sorry, you go ahead. I apologize.
No, that's it.
Okay, well, perfect. So let's say, do you think we'll have a full top-down reshuffling of the decks? Or is it just we're moving Bruce, Jack, maybe Sifu over to Lulu? And they have to now work with Caleb, Emily.
I don't know, because then that tribe has 6 people, and then...
Yeah, so everyone has 6. Lulu has 3. You can move 2 people over from each tribe, and then everyone has 5. But
no, because then Lulu would have 7.
No, if you move
2 from each tribe.
Sorry, 1 person from each tribe is what I meant to say. If you move 1 person from Reba, 1 person from Bello, bring them over to Lulu. Lulu is now 3 + 1 + 1 is 5. Everyone else goes from 6 - 1 to 5.
Yeah, but then that's like a huge disadvantage for those 2 players.
Yeah.
And not for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that they would probably do that's the fairest thing is probably just either reshuffle people or bring 2 people to Lulu, but then everyone's beaches are changing.
Ultimately, I think what's happening is that they're doing a full top-down reshuffle. If we saw Bruce and Jack, 2 people from Bello, both on Lulu now.
Yeah, he told everyone to drop their buffs.
Which is a great point as well. Sifu, who knows? But at the very least, Bruce and Jack are now seemingly on Lulu. We'll find out what's happening with everybody else. But that's huge. That's a massive thing. That's a massive tribe swap before we get to the merge. I would assume then at that point, we are going down to 3 tribes of 5.
What do you mean going down to 3 tribes? There are only 3 tribes.
Yes, but not of 5. There are 2 tribes of 6, 1 tribe of 3.
Oh.
So we're going to go up and down to 3 tribes of 5. And then we'll see what that looks like. Who stays, who moves tribes. It's going to be basically a reboot of the season for Survivor, I guess, as we continue to move on. Any other thoughts about this episode? Perfect. You thought it was poo-poo, I guess.
No, it was fine. It was fine. I think good move for Emily. I'm tired of Lulu. I need more Sifu.
I can't believe you're saying you need more Sifu.
I want to know. I want to know what's going on with this man.
I want to know. Let's talk about MVPs. For me, I only got 2 options.
2 options?
2 options for me.
Got 2 options.
Would you like to know those 2 options?
Sure.
I am sort of between Emily and Caleb.
I mean, I am too. Caleb carried the team on that challenge. Emily pulled a blindside on Sabaya.
And convinced Caleb to not work with Sabaya there. Convinced Caleb to not work Sabaya there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big move. You can maybe blame her for the puzzle part at the end, but I
don't think you can fully blame Emily for the puzzle part.
Yeah, that Lulu team also was like slowing down severely at that point, so who the heck knows? Caleb really dominated and got them the reward, but again, he also didn't necessarily seemingly helped enough with the immunity challenge. So there's pros and cons there. Yeah. He was the one that also helped in doing the blind side, but ultimately, as you said, I would give really the force behind it in Emily, by successfully convincing Caleb. So I'm sort of in between the 2. Now, do you have your pick in your head of who you want to do MVP with? Jess? She's thinking.
Yeah.
So much being if you're thinking, you gotta vocalize those thoughts. This is a podcast.
Why?
Because it's a podcast. There's so much dead air.
I'm not good at vocalizing my thoughts.
Well, that's what this podcast is about. You gotta
not being good at vocalizing my thoughts.
It's exactly what this.
So therefore, I don't need to vocalize my thoughts because that's what the podcast is about.
Dang it! Do you have any ideas on what are your thoughts on MVPs?
I have thoughts, and they are as follows. I am currently having thoughts that it might be either Caleb or Emily. I think Emily. Listen, Emily.
Oh, you're so bad at this. What happened? Okay. You're falling apart.
I am falling apart. I think that honestly, I'm leaning towards Caleb, in the sense that yes, he didn't initiate necessarily the blindside on Sabaya, but he became a major part of that, and the fact that he literally carried the team to get them a reward, that it crushed it. Freaking crushed it.
And seemingly he also made additional alliances over at what will
no
longer become Reba.
Again, the only person that could go over there, raid their camp, and leave with a hug from everybody.
Yes, and seemingly only gives one person suspect vibes in Julie.
Yeah.
That's certainly interesting. Maybe there's an argument. If there's a dark horse argument for MVP, maybe like a Drew. For getting the goodwill advantage, maybe like Dee and Julie for finding the hammer and stuff, maybe Austin for finding an idol.
I feel like everyone did great stuff this episode, but I think there's one clear winner.
All right, well, let's say it on 3. 1, 2, 3, Caleb. What'd you say?
You said say it on 3. And this, folks, is why he's marrying me.
So I want to pull the curtain here. We got to go places and do other things. And Jessie's purposely dragging out this podcast. And she wants to go somewhere after this and work on some stuff after this. Jessie,
I'm being in the moment. I'm being in the moment. I'm having fun. I'm being in the moment. You told me say it on 3.
Oh my God. Tell me who you are going to vote as your MVP on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Caleb.
Perfect. Thank God.
I was going to do a second bit where I just repeated, tell me.
I know you were going to do that. I know for a fact you were going to do that. Oh my God.
But the logic didn't work as perfectly there because you kind of phrased it better.
Whoa. Well, that helps. So, of course, because we both said Caleb, he both gets 5 points of MVP points.
You get 5.
I give him 5, you give him 5.
No.
So he gets a total of 10.
That's not what we agreed on.
That's what we agreed on.
It was you get 1 point.
No.
Yeah, this is how we did it last time. Read it back. You get 1 point.
It was a podcast. I can't read it.
Or 1 point for each MVP, and then a total of 5 if we both vote for the same person.
Are you positive?
No, but it was not 5 points each. And a total of... How many did you give last time for you voting for my person?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
I think it was 5.
But you got to make sure that it was... It's a chart. You added them in. You would know.
I added them and then deleted them, so I don't really know. I don't know what the answer was.
We should have an MVP slot where we put in the MVP points.
I don't have it. I didn't make this chart. I don't know. I wouldn't use numbers.
Well, so what's the difference? Okay, last episode...
Yeah, I forgot to update episode 2. We'll figure this out, folks. But I'm pretty sure I gave who did you say? Katora or Drew? I think you maybe said Drew or something.
I think I said, I don't know. Listen back.
I mean, we can do some quick math to figure it out too, because it's just this episode's numbers. It's your total minus episode 3 numbers minus episode 2 numbers, and then whatever episode 1 is that I figured out myself. And that's how we would figure that out.
Yeah. Well,
because you got what, 69 and 70? Those are your 2 points. So point wise, we're figuring this out live, folks.
Well, let's just figure it out after this episode.
No, I'm already on top of it. So you would have had 40 from your squad on episode 1, or 35 or 39. I texted you. Wait, I texted you what your things were. I did. We're figuring this out, folks. I texted you with the result. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm pretty sure you didn't, because that was with the old one that you used, not the new one.
No, I said you that we're changing it, and I got the new ideas, and then you said you were upset because I got a bunch of points because I lost someone. Remember?
Yeah. Oh my God, we text so much.
Well, we are fianced, so
our updated score is now 54 to 35. Okay, so we did get 5 points.
So you had 35, so then, yes. So then whoever would have gotten 5 points. So yeah, 5 points is consistent. 10 points for Caleb.
Haha! Now what are our totals at?
All right, so episode 3, you on your squad, Drew got 16 points. Jake and J Maya both got 11 points. Katora got 6 points, and Sabaya got 25 points, the most out of anybody. But again, it was her last one. She was voted off.
Would have gotten more points if Jake would have gone to medical.
Just so upset about a guy.
Stop being a tough guy. No, I'm glad he's fine. He just should have gone to medical.
So that means you have now that Sabaya is voted out, you are down to only 4 people.
So are you.
Katora, Jake, Drew, and J Maya. And honestly, right now, the biggest money makers right now are Drew. J Maya is not really doing anything on screen. Jake isn't. He's kind of done stuff on screen. And Katora is also in the Jake camp a little bit. She's not really a power broker like Drew is in a weird way. But he has 2 people. We have to remember that. Brando got me 6 points. So did Kelly. Julie got me 11 points. And Caleb got 11 plus the 10 MVP points. So 21 points. That makes it that your point totals for episode 3 are 69 points. And mine are 44, bringing our grand totals to me, Ryan, having 132, and Jessie having 179.
Woo!
So that is a difference of 47 points. between you and I.
it.
You are crushing me, but now you're down a person.
And Sabaya did get me the most points, I think.
Yeah, how many did she get you last episode?
16, and Drew got me 21. So
yeah, so she
Drew
was
and Sabaya are my point getters.
Yes, and you just lost a big one.
Yeah,
so assuming Drew has a bad episode, we'll see how this all pans out with these new squads. Which is very interesting. A lot of these people are like, some of these people may become power brokers in these different dynamics of tribes. So we may see.
I think Katora will probably bond with people who are annoyed by Bruce.
So yeah, she can tie into that. Jake will be seemingly with Bruce, so that could be fine. It just comes down if Katora is on the same tribe as Bruce.
I think Caleb has potential to, if especially post-merge, but if he swaps tribes, abandon Emily in a way of like getting too close with Drew and like...
Assuming they're on the same tribe, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Caleb can be a power broker easily. We've already seen that. I think Kelly could. She has some potential. Julie, no. I don't think she's a power broker.
I think Julie's probably going to play into the suspect of Caleb group.
Yes. I think there's
kind of the same way Katura's kind of a suspect of Bruce.
They may be planting seeds for that. And then Brando, kind of in Kelly, not really a power broker, but maybe he can do that. Katora, I think it's possible. Jake, I don't know, but I don't think so. Drew, 100%. And then J Maya, I don't get any impressions on her right now. The big power brokers
I'm
right now.
hoping she's the quiet one that slips through and then becomes the like,
the gambler.
True player.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think J Maya has potential to be third place. It just kind of sneaks through all the way.
That's top 3.
That's top 3. Gets you a bunch of points.
Yeah.
So I think right now the biggest players in the game, especially with Sabaya out, are Caleb and Drew. Austin's maybe a third place there. Bello, I don't think Bello has any top 5, maybe.
No.
Kelly and Katora are like the only ones that are like maybe actively doing stuff. Bruce is actively doing stuff, but it's working and also not. And a new tribe that might annoy a bunch of people. So I'm fascinated with what next episode's going to look like, folks, and I am very excited about it. All right, that is it for us so far. Jessie, plugs. What have you been enjoying this past week, or what have you been doing or watching or whatever that you want people to check out?
I was just watching Psych.
You have been watching
Psych.
watching
Psych. Watch some Psych. Tell us your favorite episode or your favorite quote. And tell Ryan in the email that painting stripes in the bathroom is going to work.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I just have concerns. I just have some concerns. We have a bathroom with about like chest high tiling done on the walls. And then she wanted to paint the rest of the walls that are untiled a vertical white and blue stripes, sort of like a thick stripe. I'm just concerned about the shapes. I feel like that's too much shapes, but I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe one wall.
What if I do it and if you hate it, I'll paint over it?
I mean, yeah, that's what you and I have to end up doing anyways.
Yeah.
So anything else? Email us, scurvivorseries@gmail.com. Jessie, what's that song for the email?
I forget it every time.
Was it SCURVIVOR?
This feels so corporate retreat.
VIVOR. It is SC.
And I don't want to do it. I hate audience participation.
SCVR. VIVOR.
You also spelled it wrong.
You spelled it wrong. Scurvivor Series.
Scurvivor.
All right, don't make fun of me. Scurvivorseries@gmail.com. That is the place to email your thoughts and questions. And how much are you enjoying the season? I would love to know. That's it for this week's episode of Scurvivor Series. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast if this is your first time listening, and we'll catch you next week for a brand new episode of Scurvivor Series with a brand new episode of Survivor. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.